All right, folks, we're going to give this our first attempt here. I'm going to give you a fair warning. I'm sitting at my kitchen table right now. There's laundry going. I've got a sick kid right by me. I've got a whining cat right by me, and my phone keeps beeping. So you may hear a few random noises. So the end goal of this is you guys are going to go through the notes online with me here, just to practice on factoring, practice on solving. And then by the end of these notes, within the last 20, 25 minutes of class, you have to be able to start and complete your quiz before the end of the class. So here we go. Question number one is just factoring. The very first thing you have to remember about factoring, and we really haven't talked about this at all, is anytime that your first term, so this term right here, anytime that first term is a negative, we're always going to make sure that we factor out a negative as well. So in this case, I see the greatest factor between negative 35 and negative 7 is a 7. So I'm going to factor out a negative 7. And I see that there's an n to the fourth and n squared in there. So they both have at least n squared. I'm going to multiply that by whatever it takes, negative 7 n to the second to get negative 35 n to the fourth. So that would be 5 n to the second. And then negative 7n squared times what gives you negative n squared, or negative 7n squared, and that is just a plus 1. All right, so since the directions just say factor, this would be my final answer. I factored something out. It doesn't say solve, so that's all I have to do. Second warning for the day, this is going to be super ugly because I did not bring the stylus pen home with me. I just am using my finger on the screen right now. So that's why it probably looks like a second grader did all this writing here. So here we go. Question number 2, what goes into those two terms? The greatest number that goes into them would be a 3. So I'd pull out a 3 to the outside. I see that they both have at least a v squared. And only one term has a u, so I can't pull out that u. So 3v squared times what gives me 3v to the third u, and that would be a 3vu. And then 3v squared times what gives me 24v squared, and that would be a plus 8. I'm out of room, but we got it. Okay, so that would be our factored answer there. All right, let's see if I can scroll down here a little bit. All right, for the bottom one, there we go. Let's make it that way. For the bottom one, we need to figure out what goes into all those. And this is kind of one of those giant crazy problems. The first term is a negative, so I know automatically I'm going to pull out a negative no matter what the numbers are. See a 7, 6, 10, and 4. The only thing I know that goes into that would be a 1. The 7 really throws things off. So I have a negative 1 that I'm going to pull out, or you could just put a negative sign. X's, I see that they all have at least x to the fourth. No way I'm going to fit this all on the screen, by the way. Y's, I see they all have a y squared. That's kind of nice. Z's, looks like Z is the highest they all have, just one Z. So negative 1 times 7 is negative 7. Z to the fourth times Z, or I'm sorry, x to the fourth times x squared gives me x to the 6th. Y squared is already there, and Z times Z would give me the Z squared. Negative 1 times negative 6 gives me the positive 6. Z to the fourth is already there, y squared is there, and then I need a Z to the third power to get me up to Z to the fourth. Negative 1 times 10, so a positive 10 is going to get me negative 10. I need an x. Y squared is already there, and Z is there. So that's all I need for that one. And for my final one, it's a negative 4, so I need to multiply by positive 4. I might have enough room. There's an x to the fourth, a y squared, and a z, so that's all I need. So my final factored answer would be that right there. Alrighty. So we cruise on here. I'm gonna move stuff out of the way for a second. We go to page number 2. Page 2's got factor completely, and this is where we start to get into our trinomials and the stuff you've done the past 2 days. Really look forward to seeing how you do. You did it with a sub. But I really don't think it'd be too much of a trouble for you. So here we go. First one, the very first step that we always do when we look at these, we say, just like on those first 3 problems, is there anything that we can factor out? So in this case, I see that they all are even numbers, and I could actually factor out a 2. So I'm going to pull a 2 out of all of this. So it really looks like 2 times x squared minus 3 x plus 2. All right, so that tells me, since I factored that 2 out, that when I factor, since it just says factor, when I factor and write my final answer, there has to be a 2 in front of my answers, because whatever my two factors are have to be multiplied by 2 in the end. All right, so for my trinomial, this is where I make my x now. I say, all right, my a value is 1, my c value is 2. 1 times 2 is 2, so I write the 2 up top. My b value is -3, the term in the middle. So I'm supposed to figure out what multiplies to get 2, but adds to get -3. All right, I know that that is a -2 and a -1. Because -2 times -1 is 2, and -2 plus -1 is -3. We always have this little bar going across here to always put whatever our like a value along with the variable is. So it's a 1x. So I'm going to write a 1x here and a 1x here. That tells me that my two factors are 1x minus 2 and 1x minus 1. Or you could just write x minus 2 and x minus 1. All right, x minus 2, x minus 1. The order does not matter at all. As long as you have the x minus 1 and the x minus 2 somewhere, you are perfect. So that is your factored answer. If it said solve, then you would see an equal sign and you would set each of your factors equal to 0 to solve. All right, question number 5. Question number 5, again, factoring. If you look at it right away, you see that there's nothing that you can pull out. So you automatically go straight into your x. Put that in there as well. So all right, a times c. So 1 times -60 is -60. That was bad. My b term is -4. So what multiplies to get -60 and adds to get -4? Oh, buddy. 12, 24, 36, 48, 65, and 12. No. 10. Oh, it's 10 and 6. How about that one? So I know it's 10 and 6 somehow, and it's a negative number, so the -10 has to be the biggest number, and the 6 has to go here as well. So -10 times 6 is -60, -10 plus 6 is -4. All right, so then I see that my a term plus the variable is a 1n, so I write my 1n on both those. So I just get n minus 10 and n plus 6. There you go. Got it. Okay, so that is factoring. Again, if it said solve, you would put equals 0, and you'd do n minus 10 equals 0, and n plus 10 or n plus 6 equals 0. Moving on. We're 8 minutes in here. We get cooking. Question number 6. I look at it right away. There's nothing that you can pull out of 1, 14, and 48. So I make my x, cross it over. A times c is 48. Got it. My b term is -14. Got it. What multiplies to get 48 adds to get -14. It's got to be an 8 and a 6. That equals a positive, so I know it's got to be a -8 and a -6. My a term, my a value is 1 plus that variable is 1k, so I know it's just 1k. So my factors are k minus 8, k minus 6. Got it. All right, at this point, I would say pause the video for a second just so you can try number 7 on your own. After you try it on your own, you can kind of speed through here and just check to see if your work was correct. All right, hopefully you paused it, you did it on your own. I'm going to do it really fast here if I can. I know it multiplies to get 3, it adds to get 4, so it's got to be a 3 and a 1. A value is just a 1n, so my factors are n plus 3, n plus 1. That was a plus 1 over there, that little different language looking writing over there. N plus 3, n plus 1. All right, moving on. Trying to go a little bit faster now. Question number 8. I think you're starting to hopefully get the feel for what we're doing here. Question number 8, there's nothing that you can factor out, so I do my x right away. What multiplies to get -24 adds to get 5. Okay, I know it's got to be an 8 and a -3. 8 times -3 is -24. 8 plus -3 is 5. The a value is a 1, and I take the 1 and the n, so 1n. So I know my factors are n plus 8 and n minus 3. Done. Factored. All right, I'd say pause it again so you can try number 9 on your own. Question number 9, we go through, there's nothing that you can factor out right away. I go straight into my x. What multiplies to get 14, but adds to get 9, 7, and 2. So I know my a value is 1, so it's got to be a 1 and an n. So my factors turn out to be n plus 7, n plus 2. Nothing you can do there. It doesn't say solve. We're done. Keep motoring along again. All right, we're finally to some solving. Now this, I would think, this is where people are going to look at this and be kind of confused what's going on, because the directions say solve each equation by factoring. If I look at this, there's nothing I can factor. But if you really sit back and think about it, that's already factored for you. So the work has already been done. So truthfully, that problem really was m squared plus 8m equals 0 at some point. It's already been factored, so they already pulled out the m. Now it's m times m plus 8. So the work is already done. You just have to solve it. So to solve, you take each part, this part and this part, and you set each one equal to 0. So I'd write m equals 0, and I'd write m plus 8 equals 0. And this one is already solved, so I know 0 is the solution. This one I subtract 8 to both sides, so I know m has to equal negative 8. Done. We solved it. We got 2 solutions. And if you picture again what that would look like if I'm looking at a graph, that means that my graph is going to touch the x-axis at 0. Oops, that wouldn't be there. It would touch at 0 and it would touch at negative 8. So it would look something like that. So it touch right at 0 and right at negative 8. That's our whole reasoning for doing this stuff. Second question, number 13, is the exact same way. It already is factored for you. So just like in the first 10, 11 problems, the factoring is done. Now you're at this point, you just have to solve. So you take each one and set it equal to 0. This part, x minus 7 equals 0, and this part, 5x plus, gonna run out of room, equals 8. There we go. All right, so I add 7, so I know x equals 7 is one solution. The other one, I subtract 8, show this step. If you don't, this is where a lot of people get these problems wrong because they write it upside down. 5x equals negative 8. Show this step. Divide by 5. X equals negative 8/5. Just show it. It's going to take you an extra maybe 3 or 4 seconds. Show these steps right here just to make your life so much easier. Don't miss out on easy points. Okay? All righty. What we got? I'm just going to assume you guys can do these ones. It says solve by factoring, so pause it. I'm just going to write the answers up here after you do the work by yourself and just check to make sure you're good. All right, this one, n plus 3 equals 0. And n minus 8 equals 0. If I subtract 3 to the first one on both sides, I end up with n equals negative 3. If I add 8 to the second one, I end up with n equals 8. So 2 solutions, negative 3 and positive 8. Question number 15. If you picture what squared really means, it means times itself. So if we wrote this out, it would look like x plus 8 times x plus 8 equals 0. You could set them both equal to 0, but you're going to get the same answer no matter what. So really, you only have to do it one time. X plus 8 equals 0. Subtract 8 to both sides. That shows you there is only one solution. So again, if you picture the whole point of this, it means it's only going to touch the graph on the x-axis at negative 8. So it's going to come kind of like that. It's only going to touch at one point. It's not going to go all the way through. I think we're almost there. We got a couple left. Okay, solve each by factoring. Now, this is combining it all. So it's saying you actually factor stuff, and then after you factor, then you solve it. So in this case, I think if you would pause it, you may be a little bit baffled by this. When it says factor, you're normally used to seeing the trinomial and making your x. But here I only have my first 2 terms, my a and my b. In that case, the only thing I can do is factor something out of it. So I'd factor out a p times p plus 7. Supposed to be an equal sign. Set each part equal to 0, so p equals 0. That one's done already. And then p plus 7 equals 0. When I subtract 7, I turn out to get p equals -7. That's my solution, 0 and -7. Question number 17. We're looking at 17. It says factor. I look at it right away. There's 3 terms. They're in order. There's nothing I can pull out. So I know if it's a trinomial, I have to do my x. A times c. So 1 times, oh, buddy, -6 is -6. My b term is 1b. Multiplies to get -6, adds to get 1. So it's got to be a 3 and a -2. My a value and that variable is a 1b, so I just write b. My factors are b plus 3 and b minus 2 equals 0. Since it says solve, I set each one equal to 0. So I subtract 3 and get b equals -3. This one I add 2, so I get b equals 2, -3 and 2. And grand finales. Grand finales, these ones look exactly like what you did before, other than they have this. It doesn't say equals 0. We know that we cannot solve these unless they equal 0. So we move our 8 over to the other side. We know how to move terms from one side to the other. The opposite of 8 is -8. So I'm going to say pause it from here. Try numbers 18 and 19 by yourself, then come back and check it. If you get them right, then you know you are set to take your quiz. Ready, go. -4. I forgot I was supposed to be talking to you guys. I multiply, I get -4. Top, my b value is 3. Let's see here. To multiply and get -4, it's got to be a 4 and a -1 to get -4 and add to get 3. My a value is a k, or 1k. So I'm going to have k plus 4, k minus 1. Parentheses in there. Equals 0. I subtract 4 from this one. I do equals 0. So I get k equals -4. I add 1 to this side, and I get k equals 1. So my solutions are -4 and +1. And the grand finale. Oh, what do we got? What do we got? Subtract 3. I have p squared minus 10p plus 16 equals, I'm not going to be able to write equals 0, but equals 0. All right, it's nothing I can pull out, so I make my x right away. It's got to multiply to get 1 times 16 is 16. My b term is -10. That's a 10. It just doesn't look like it. Multiplies to get 10, so it's going to be a -8 and a -2. -8 times -2 is 16. -8 plus -2 is -10. A value is a 1, and then my p. So I have p minus 8. I have p minus 2. Those would be my factors if it just said factor, but the directions say solve. So I add 8 when this one equals 0. I add 2 when that one equals 0, and I get p equals 8, and I get p equals 2. Ladies and gentlemen, we're done. You done. Now walk your little butt up to the front of the room. You can get your quiz. Kick some butt. Peace out.